Chapter 9 Red Prince versus the Ghost Hunter. Ghost Hunter, with his professional pride, pulled out the pistol in his left holster and fired it at Red Prince. The bullet flew through her latte, causing the coffee to spill all over the ground and all over Red. She threw her hands up in frustration and exasperated sigh. "God, that cost me 5 centi. Are you trying to make me lose money?" Red asked him. Ghost Hunter stared at her for a moment. He shouldn't have missed, yet Red was still standing and still lecturing him. Maybe the jacket was bulletproof. He adjusted the pistol and aimed for her forehead. Another bang, and a wet spot appeared on Red's forehead. Water dripped down, following her scar. She lifted her finger to wag at him like she was scolding him. How was she still standing? What happened to his bullet? Did she somehow transmute it into water? Clearly a new plan of attack was going to be needed. Well, if you're so desperate to throw things away, you might as well just throw your bullets down. It'd be less wasteful that way, Red told him, her arms crossed. Ghost Hunter responded by aiming his gun directly at her feet and firing twice near her where her feet were resting. "If you're expecting me to be less bulletproof there, I'm afraid you are sorely mistaken, and you didn't even hit me," Red said, taunting him. She was confident she had him beaten. She'd given him a chance at a fair shot, and now she was going to hold all the cards. "I wasn't aiming for you," Ghost Hunter said, as the creaking of the house got a lot louder near Red. Looking down, she noticed that the areas that were shot next to her feet were the supports of the floor she was standing on. "Oh," she said, just as the floor finally gave out, and Red Prince came flying through the ceiling of the first floor, collapsing onto a pile of wood. She was still moving among the debris, but her forehead had a cut now, rich crimson spilling onto her jacket, face, and neck. Red lifted her hand to her head and removed it to see that the warm liquid was indeed blood and not water. "Are you still alive?" Ghost Hunter called down from the new hole in the upstairs, down to Red Prince. "Vinland!" the confused Red Prince yelled back up to Ghost Hunter. He shrugged and said to himself, "She's fine. She'll get better after you take care of Tiffany," Ghost Hunter told himself as he opened the door to Tiffany's bedroom. Unlike last time, there was no cold. The closet door was open, but there's nothing inside. Now angry at having his time wasted, Ghost Hunter punched the door and it broke into pieces. Cheap door," he muttered to himself. As he traveled downstairs and he saw that Red Prince was starting to get up from the woodpile. She was on shaking legs and the cut on her forehead was starting to scab over. Ghost Hunter called out to her. "Where is the ghost?" "She's out getting ice cream," Red responded with shaking words. She was very clearly shaken by the fall and was probably going to need to go to the hospital after this, if the Vanguard didn't carry her there themselves. "I'm serious," Ghost Hunter said, drawing his gun again, pointing at Red's face. She spat blood towards him, falling just short of his gun. "I am being serious. She's getting ice cream with the officer on their break. I wanted to talk to you and resolve this peacefully without violence," Red said, spreading her arms out wide, showing that she had no weapons, and even after falling through a floor, she was still willing to be diplomatic about it all. "Well, I don't want to be diplomatic. I made a contract and I'm getting my 3,000 centi, Ghost Hunter said, beginning to turn away from Red Prince, but Red shouted something after him that made him pause and turn back to face her. "Wouldn't you rather have 2,100,000 centi? Red said. Ghost Hunter approached slowly. He wasn't sure if he heard her correctly, or even if he did hear her correctly, if she was being honest. People will do anything to save their lives, including lying or deception. Still, he wasn't threatening her life, and she fell through a floor onto a bunch of splinters and she was still fine. So maybe she wasn't lying? "Why would you give me so much money?" Ghost Hunter asked Red Prince. She waved her hands away like it was a stupid question. Still wobbling a little bit, but standing better than she was earlier, Red answered his questions. "I'm not giving you that money. Helen has your money. Do you know how much money she was planning on making this scheme? 8,400,000 centi from selling all of those houses around us. She paid you maybe 14,400 centi to remove some ghosts, and she was going to make enough money to comfortably retire for the rest of her life. You were going to earn less than 1/10% of what she was making. Tell me, is that fair to you?" Red asked him. Clearly, Ghost Hunter was uncomfortable. He wasn't a mercenary hunting ghosts for the fun of it. He enjoyed his job, and he had a lot of pride in it, But earning money was a nightmare. Jobs were exceedingly rare, and killing a single ghost barely afforded him rent for a couple of months. He thought he might have won the jackpot with his job, but according to Red Prince, he may have won the entire casino without knowing it. You could be lying. What proof do you have? Ghost Hunter dared her to prove it. One didn't grow old hunting the supernatural without needing proof, making the big decisions. Red pulled out the file from her jacket, handing it to him. Ghost Hunter opened it and began to read. He saw property prices, ownership of homes, and even the estimated value of the homeowners association. This is all real, he whispered, seeing the seal of River City. All of this was official and real. Yes, she played you. If I remember correctly, standard mercenary pay for jobs like this is 25%, right? Sometimes you might get a lower price, but that's where negotiation was going to start. But I'm going to guess you've seen the inside of her house? She probably needed to save for another painting. She's still across the street, and you can renegotiate your contract with her. You can still get paid and get away, and she can take the fall for you instead of you taking it for her. Red finished cleaning up her wound with a cleaning wipe that she keeps in her jacket pocket. Ghost Hunter was clearly evaluating the risk versus the reward of such an action. She may have neighbors who may turn on me, or she may turn me in herself. I can't spend a cent while I'm in Black Moon. Hell, I can't do anything on Black Moon except try not to die. On top of that, what's to keep you, the detective, from just reporting me to RCPD? He said, crossing one arm and the other laying on his side. He clearly had very little trust in other people who he had just met and tried to kill. Red understood the thought process. It made sense. First, she has no neighbors. She owns all the houses and she's refusing to rent them out because she wants to make more money by selling them with the haunted house repossessed. Red said with a giggle at the end, and Ghost Hunter cracked a smile beneath his bandana from the intentional play on words. And why would she call the police on you? She would have to explain why all of a sudden these houses that were filled last night are now empty, and when they try to contact witnesses, and when they try to ask the obvious question of if she knows you, if she admits she hired you, she will get arrested even if they investigate where the theft come from. And when they fail to find any evidence of who stole it, she will only have one person to hire, and that's me, if she has any money left over. And do you honestly think I would help her even if she paid me? Red asked, lifting her hands up in exasperation. I mean, that depends. How much can she pay you? Ghost Hunter admitted, thinking back to all the people he worked for just because they could pay. Being a hunter that only specialized in ghosts usually didn't mean a whole lot of jobs were lined up waiting for him, and that they were savory characters. A lot of them were a lot crueler than the phantoms he was hunting. Not as much as I'm getting from turning in her husband, Gary, Red said with no small amount of pride, thinking about her payday from his bounty. RCPD was always happy to hop when they heard the magic words fine or fee, and usually happy to part with a few centi to help to anyone who helped them to find someone to charge. Gary Gunderson? That idiot is who she's married to? Ghost Hunter said, his jaw dropping beneath his bandana. Red nodded and sighed, thinking to herself that maybe Ghost Hunter was not much of a hunter after all, if he missed such an obvious things. Yes, let me guess. She recommended his gun shop because they had silver bullets? I can neither confirm nor deny the answer to that question. Well, her husband's about to go into legal and financial trouble, so while I was investigating the house, I was surprised by an unknown assailant who shot the floor out from me. I didn't get a clear look at them, but I did see they ran across the street and for some reason didn't leave. I was dazed and confused, so the first thing I did was take care of the cut on my forehead before calling the police for backup. While the officer guarding the place was on break for another 45 minutes. Oh wow, I was so dazed I must have been knocked out for a while. I only managed to call for help when the police had 15 minutes left of the break. When the police come by, they can happen to find that the home of the homeowners association had the bullets engraved with the name of the parents, the gun that shot them, both of which the husband recorded as sold, but somehow to someone who doesn't exist and wasn't background checked without a proper invoice. So suddenly their argument that someone else did it becomes a lot less valid. Even if they argue they paid someone else to do it, it looks very suspicious because the gun came from his shop, The only fingerprints on it are his own, and the only evidence that it's someone else's is his own word. Knowing how people like her think, she probably keeps all of the money she wants to spend on illegal things in specie rather than trust a bank. Not knowing that to keep cash in specie means that only one robbery can leave you empty and in debt. All the evidence stacked against her and her husband for a crime they certainly committed, financial struggles, no assets to use as collateral, and now all these empty homes to sell on the cheap and a haunted house as a public park? No one is going to believe her when she said a cowboy she hired robbed her. Red finished, and Ghost Hunter was looking out of the house, clearly following everything that was going on. He knew that he could get away with it, and that he would be done with his work. He reached into his pockets and pulled out a business card to hand to her.